Step and say that this is probably the best day of my teaching career so far. I'm really humbled and honored that you guys would come and just be interested in what I'm doing, and I really truly appreciate it. I hope it's going to be worthwhile for you. I know I'm really excited, and the students are really excited too. So,
Jasper.
But anyway, back to the video. Like you gotta. What I try to do is I try to put the videos out, and then, you know, the students would need them in the next week or so. So it's not like the next day, because when I started using the videos, that's sort of the model I went by. I assigned a video, and then the next day they needed it, and the novelty was there. So there was only a few kids that didn't watch it, but I couldn't rely on that. Do you know what I mean? So it's really important to structure it out into a way that you can have your students engage with the material in a meaningful way, and then, but not, because it's going to torpedo your lesson the next day. Did that sort of make sense? So, but there's some structural adaptations that I've made in my classroom to basically maximize the time that the students come in. All right, and it actually all started on and I'm being honest here, on a day where I was giving a test, and I was basically almost falling asleep. My classroom looked totally different than this. The desks were in rows, and you know, I think it was like the winter, so the heat was sort of on. It was sort of stuffy, you know, and you know what I'm talking about, right? And you're just like, oh, I'm gonna fall asleep, right? And I had this sort of epiphany that there was such a better way and better way to spend time with my students. And so that's when I started thinking about pushing off the direct instruction and the assessment a little bit more creatively. So I gain up to 80 days of class time with my model that I'm using right now, which is my asynchronous class time. And so, you know, typically high school teachers or high school. So typically in high school, right, because I'm teaching Regents or Science, I would do a lecture on Monday and a quiz or an assessment on Friday, something like that, right? And so I looked at 2 days a week. I was basically losing and boring my students with, right? So with the videos came this great opportunity to basically personalize that direct instruction. And originally they'd watch it at home, and that was really successful. In terms of like preparing them for lab reports and stuff, or labs and stuff, because they would come in and they would know what they were doing, right? They wouldn't have to, spend 15 minutes figuring out the directions and stuff, and that was really successful. And I also transitioned into doing assessment, at home on Castle Learning. So I know Jesse and I were talking. You were asking me about Castle Learning. The vendor was at the conference last week, I guess. That's an online software, an online website that you can go on and give your students questions and stuff like that. So basically, right there, I get 2 extra days a week of time with my students. And the way I structure it is I do a tiered system with what I call levels, and I encourage you to ask some of the students today to see those the document in our Drive environment. And basically, level 1 is like basic stuff, like with the notes, the videos, stuff like that. Level 2 is more formative assessment, where the students are doing things, getting feedback, not always graded. And then the level 3 stuff is more summative. So like tests and quizzes would be in there and stuff like that. So basically, when the students come in, you'll see them basically working all on different stuff. So each student can basically work at their own pace through that menu that I've created. So it's really cool, because I just have a philosophy that the model of all the students doing the same thing at the same time is sort of just a broken model. And saying that it's old-fashioned doesn't even do it justice. It's really broken, because like if we just look around, we're all different. We all do things differently, in everything. I mean, it applies to everything. So allowing students to do things when they want to and how they want to is really important. So, am I sparking any ideas yet, or? Okay, I sort of hear myself droning. This is probably like more direct talking than I normally do, so you have to bear with me a little bit. But any comments, questions yet, or?
So do kids go through the menu and they select where they're supposed to be, or they just go in a particular order? How does a student go through the curriculum they're supposed to go through?
Well, they have a choice. They could definitely go right to the test or quiz. I don't encourage that for them, but they can. They have to do everything on the menu, and usually they won't necessarily meet with success on summatives if they don't do the other stuff, the other activities. But it's basically up to them, and they can do the activities either here in class or at home or wherever. So it's pretty much up to them. The interface is the Google Drive environment, and I'm very grateful to Linda. She's allowing me to pilot that with the 2 classes that you're going to see right now. So, and I'm administering the domain. So I've set it up with G-class folders, and I use scripts to populate everything out. So, and then with the videos, we use Ensemble, and I guess it only took 15 minutes to mention them. Great provider, and so I have an overall playlist with my videos on my website. There are so many on there now that it wasn't really like easy to say, go look at this video. They would kind of get lost, So what I do is in the weekly menu, I'll put a link to a video. And again, I know we're just sort of talking. I encourage you to ask the students later when they come in to show you the menu so that you can see what I'm talking about. Well, that's a great question, and a lot of the activities that I have are, you'd say interesting or higher order thinking, where they for example, blog writing. They write almost weekly on their class blogs, and they could always go back and edit. They could always go back and I encourage them to comment on each other's posts. In my class, students are always allowed to retake and reassess their assignments. So I've pretty much never had a kid that finished everything and had 100 on anything. So there's always something to go back and relearn, or redo and improve their understanding on. So I don't think I've ever had that really happen, but if I was to, like thinking about what happened if a lot of kids said we're done, I would definitely ask them about the level of workload that week, and was it honestly too light? You know what I mean? So, and they're really partners in this. I give end of the year student surveys, and my classroom looks the way it looks like. I wouldn't say entirely from student surveys, but a large part, especially my homework load. So, a few years ago, my students said really candidly that I was giving way too much homework. So, I'm basically taking the assignments, like when I started this, I basically took the assignments I would have given in a week, and I gave it to them on Monday and said, I'm not like putting them out in a raft in the middle of the ocean and being like, all right, deal with it. I'm saying, here's the assignments, here's the progression that they should be done, and it's up to you to figure out when and how you're going to do it.
It sounds to me like the kids may not be all watching the videos at home, so maybe something that is done over that week.
Yeah.
Am I correct in
You're definitely correct. And I've seen a transition to where they're actually almost all watching them in class. So the earbuds, or go outside. You'll see some of the students like to work out in the hallway. They say it's a little more private. Sometimes they say it's more quiet and stuff. But my attitudes on homework have basically done a 180, I would say, over the past 5 years, I would say. And so, I encourage the students to watch them whenever they want to. A side note to that is I really try so hard to make my videos interesting to watch. All right? There's a footnote to that. The video that I have on this week's menu is not my best video. So, and it's way longer than my videos are these days. It comes in at just over 10 minutes, which to me is like an eternity too long. I really should cut it into 3 videos, but I just haven't had the time to yet. So, but going along with that, you know, if I can make a video that's as interesting enough for a kid to want to watch it at home, that's what I'm really going for. So, I know some of you have seen my one where I have the fake beard, so you kind of know where I'm going with it. Yes.
Jasper, on the progression and allowing students to reassess themselves.
Yeah.
Do you differentiate the assessment every time a kid wants to reassess, or are they taking the same assessment?
I give them a new assessment, and I just pick the same parameters that from the original one. So it'll be different questions. Castle Learning has a really robust question bank in it with thousands of questions. So I'll just go in, I'll select the same topics and have the same difficulty level, and then I'll just give them a new assignment.
So, and you do that for each kid? Like, I'm a kid in your class.
Yeah.
I got a 70 on the first assessment.
You'll take the reassessment number 1, and everybody gets that one.
Okay.
Yeah. So, spoiler alert though, I do randomize the questions so it looks like a different one. But,
Jasper,
yeah.
can you talk about, because I remember the story you told me from the beginning of how you made the switch over. How are your region scores changed since your traditional method versus how you teach now?
They have stayed level or gone up slightly. So I've always had high scores. Last year I had I think a 90 average. It's always 100% mastery. It's always 100% passing. And then last year I had 90% mastery, over 85%. And the year before, which was the first full year I did with the videos, was 100% mastery, and it was a 94 average. So, you know, I think last year I may have seen a little downtick, just, you know, for reasons out of my control. I'm not sure, but the scores are always among the highest. So, you know, I try to not be defined by scores, but if someone wants to look at that, it's
a value to bring back to your district.
You know, it's not crashing and burning.
It's just really quick. Do you ever have any kids walk in here who are used to a very traditional model of teaching and are kind of freaked out about the independent?
The first couple of weeks, yeah, those students definitely pop up every year for the first few weeks, but once they see that they can reassess things, and once they see that they can look at the videos after again, and you know, they come into the classroom with the desk like this and stuff, it's a pretty welcoming place. They calm down. It's the kids that are really good at working the school system that don't like it. And I've had 1 or 2 kids in the past couple of years that they end up scoring really well in the regents, but they don't like how much I make them think, especially because there's a couple times during the year I'll have them make their own videos, and they really didn't like that. They were just like, you know, why can't you just stand up in front of the class and tell it? I think the principal, Vanessa, could probably answer that better, because I don't know if they'd probably go right over my head if they had that feeling, but I haven't really had that experience. I kind of have the opposite, where you know, on back to school night, the parents are like, oh, I love that video where you were cooking, or, you know, I thought that was great, you know, or I'm learning so much. And they really like that. They like that the kids can relearn stuff through my videos. And it's been really positive so far.
And can I say something to that?
Sure, please.
I feel like he's doing more for the individual student than a traditional teacher, because the kids are learning what they're able to learn on their own, you know, like the content. And then he's there to help them understand what they didn't get by watching it, or develop it further. It's just like so much more of a facilitator, and helping kids really navigate their own learning and know where to go for answers, and using him as a resource. Well, you'll see it when they come in.
Jasper, I guess my other question is not so much as a teacher, but my daughter's doing something like this in her school. She's watching the videos and she's not getting it. She's just not understanding.
Yeah.
She's going back to school, do the activities, go through the task list, and there's no teaching of the material in her class. And she's not understanding it.
Okay.
So how do you how's that different here? What do you find
That's a
works
great-
with that? Because she's honestly floundering.
Yeah,
You know,
that's a
I
great
see it as a
question.
dad.
And I've sort of started uncovering what I would call a dark underbelly of the video in education movement. And unfortunately, video can be really isolating. Especially if the instructor says, "Go watch this video," then you need it in class, and just sort of steamrolling on. You know what I mean? So one thing that I've had a lot of success with in the past is online extra help. So I'm still retooling it now through the Google Apps environment, but what I have been doing for the past 2 full years is when I introduced a new video, I would watch it with a group of students together online. I was using Adobe Connect. So I would take an hour in the evening and I would watch it with the students. We could discuss it. We could go back and we could look at it. They could ask me questions that arose in the video. And then we could do some practice questions about it together. And those were my online extra help sessions. And that was something that was really helpful. And that would be one thing that would address it. Okay? The other thing is when we come back is, it sounds like the piece of the puzzle that's missing is formative assessment. Because formative assessment needs to be occurring nonstop for the instructor to understand where the students are. And that could be even just simple questions. That could be warm-up, do-nows, stuff like that. In this class, I use blog posts. I use pencil and paper do-nows. So I'm constantly, and then I'm going back and checking in with the students and saying, "Hey, what happened on this question? Can you explain it to me?" And stuff like that. And I really try every day to have a conversation with each student, to sort of gauge where they're going, where they are. So I don't know if that's sort of, I would say formative assessment is really the.
But is there time structured in the class period where, hey group, come on over and meet with me, and we're going to either look at a segment of the video or discuss, in the traditional lecture,
Yeah.
there's back and forth discussion, I don't get that, or we can read from the students, they're not getting that part. Where does that happen this month?
It actually happens the whole time. So you're going to see I'm constantly circulating around and having conversations with each student, and I'm gauging continually. I mean, it's very informal, but I'm continually gauging. Hey, what are you working on? Tell me about it. Let's talk a little bit more. Why did you pick that? Or whatever. And then through the back channel, you'll start to see them asking me questions. It's early in the year, so we may not see it today, but later in the year, I will see them helping each other through the back channel. A student might say, "Hey, I don't understand this question. Is anybody else working on it?" Somebody will either chime in on that, or you'll see them go over. So there's a lot of opportunities for students to ask for help, and a lot of opportunities for us all to help each other. So.
Jasper, those extra help sessions at night, you archive those, right? So all the kids that weren't able to watch them at that moment can watch them at any time?
Unfortunately, right now, the Adobe Connect sort of disappeared, so that whole archive from last year is gone, but I'm working on integrating it into, I'm trying to figure out how to get it manageable with Google Hangouts in my Drive, so my Drive environment. So that's where I'm going with it. And then recording it with Camtasia. And then probably putting it in the Drive where it's more walled in. Because I had my archive was password protected for the students. So. But that was really successful, and the parents loved that because a lot of the parents, told me, hey, I'm using Adobe Connect with my work. And it's great that you're using it with my kid, because they're learning about how webinars. It actually, I got the idea from it. I volunteered to judge on the Flat Classroom project. Have you guys heard of that? I'm a video judge, so it'll be my third year doing that. And I did a webinar training with them, and the presenter was in China. And they were talking with me, and it was a webinar, and I was like, wow, this is a really cool idea. Why don't I do this with my students? Because they were just going through a PowerPoint, and I was like, this is awesome, So originally, Linda got me set up with Bridget through the Smart Tools, Bridget Connect. And that worked, but it wasn't as sort of robust as I wanted. And the Adobe Connect really was great. It's too bad that we can't use it anymore. But
Yeah, the Rick stopped support.
Yeah.
Now they're on another tool that doesn't work.
yeah,
Yeah,
so,
right, yeah.
Visible? V-I-S-I-B-L-E.
Course texture.
Oh, are you guys on number 20?
Yeah, we're on number 20.
Oh,
Course texture.
What's the difference between using Castle and using Google Drive and how you use them in class?
Basically, Castle is used more towards like homework and tests and quizzes. And Drive is basically like what we're doing through the week. We have like a weekly menu that shows